Ted Cruz, America's mayonnaise-necked assistant pastor, came out in favor of defending free speech in the case of Jimmy Kimmel before the unbrained Joe Rogan did. Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz, freedom of speech, before Joe Rogan said anything about it. And all the guys in the solar system that are around Joe Rogan, the Austin comedy scene, they had to come out and make a statement. Well, I like Trump, but I think he's gone too far this time. F you. You are how am I supposed to believe that you're dumb or lying?
Welcome to Breaking Points. My name is Spencer Snyder, and today I have with me James Adomian. He is an incredible comedian, an impressionist. You might know him from the Bernie Trump debates, Sebastian Gorka on Chapo Trap House. But more relevant for today and why I was really excited to talk with him, he's made a lot of appearances on Jimmy Kimmel as Mike Lindell, beloved My Pillow guy. Kimmel, of course, was suspended from ABC after his remarks on Charlie Kirk, but subscriber cancellation was so great and stock in Disney fell enough that they caved and brought Kimmel back. However, Nexstar and Sinclair own about 25% of ABC affiliates, and they are still planning on excluding the show. So let me just first ask, what was your reaction when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled?
You know, first of all, I don't think he was canceled in a legitimate way, like where TV network executives were like, "Oh, you've had a good run, time to cancel the show," or like, "Oh, the storyline wrapped up, we can cancel it," or "Hey, the ratings aren't where they used to be, we can cancel it." It was ordered off the air by the government illegally. I mean, my immediate reaction was unsurprised horror, I guess. Shock of something that you saw coming. Because he was already telegraphing, Trump was already telegraphing he was going to come after Jimmy Kimmel since in the weeks since he illegally ordered the cancellation of Stephen Colbert at CBS. Ironically, I was in in the airport on the way to Canada for a week of shows at the Just for Laughs festival in Toronto with a burner phone, which is my first time traveling that way to not be unduly investigated on my return to the country of my birth. So I had a burner phone to not to go to Canada, to come back to the US. And so I was watching this news develop in the airport TVs, and then for a whole week I was just simply following it through Canadian media. I was watching it on the CBC. Oh, no. On the other, our neighbors to the south, some rough developments in the FCC crackdown on Jimmy Kimmel. Some very rough developments. What do you think, Francois McDonald? What do you have to say about it? And then I just made up some Canadian name that probably is like 300,000 people. I have a lot of friends on the show, and there was never a time when I felt like I would have loved to have been hopped on the phone, gossiping and asking, like, "What are you guys up to? How are you doing?" I didn't have anybody's phone numbers with me. And it took me a couple of days to figure out how to get in touch with people on a burner phone. People don't tell you about this. When you're traveling with a burner phone to circumvent an illegal police state, life becomes a little less convenient. But Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, Project 2025, they telegraph all their police state moves. They say we're going to suspend the Constitution. We're not going to have democracy. Free speech, we're not going to do anymore. They brag about it. And sometimes they brag about it in a boring way so that you're not supposed to pay attention to it. And, you know, so you get that sometimes, but they're not hiding anything of what they're doing. And this was just one obvious step. And in the developments of the last week, they lost. The police state tried something, and they lost because they are not omnipotent. They lost a round. They lost a battle, and that's what I've been telling people. Sometimes the bad guys lose. You can celebrate it, but don't live in it like it's always going to be that way. And also on a personal level, people don't understand, who don't work with him, what a great guy Jimmy Kimmel is, because a lot of people see, a lot of people just know someone from TV. It's the way it is, you know? And you're like, oh, it's just another guy on TV. Of course, there's some guys that are going to say he's a great guy. He does things for people that are really, really good that he doesn't brag about, that people don't know about widely. When the guy took care of people on his staff during the COVID years, during the strike times, people who are part of that family, when they have a problem, he does not broadcast it. He's very quiet about it. He helps people who need it. And he's a great boss. I've worked on hundreds of TV shows, and I'm nowhere near famous, but I've worked on hundreds of television shows. And he's in the top tier of cool people to work with. So it was sad to see that happen to a tight knit family in showbiz, where hundreds of people suddenly lost their jobs because a wannabe dictator said so. But they're back, and there's a lawsuit. I hope they sue him for all the money that was lost from that illegal, unconstitutional power play, and a little bit more to make sure the precedent never comes back.
Well, let me ask you this going forward. Internal censorship is obviously very strong. I mean, at big networks, the pressure from higher ups, from advertisers, now this, and even though Kimmel is back, do you think this whole episode ends up having a lasting impact on shows like this? Maybe not necessarily Kimmel, but certainly his colleagues in late night, like executives and producers, remembering what can happen if you say something that offends Trump or that world.
Yes, they could go, okay, we allowed Kimmel back on, but let's not allow any other danger. We have Kimmel in South Park that's allowed to be dangerous sometimes. Let's not allow anything else on. And we'll establish that as the left-wing barrier of what's allowed on television, yanking the Overton window to the right. Jimmy Kimmel is not left-wing or leftist. Jimmy Kimmel is like right down the middle of TV viewers in the country. But he's a guy who's come up with a bunch of right-wing people in comedy also, and it's not an accident that they're friends with him.
A lot of comedians obviously see free speech as particularly salient to what they do, and I think most of that is totally principled and genuine. But I've seen at least one comedian on the right who has a very large platform saying, sure, free speech means all speech, but thank you to Nexstar and Sinclair for continuing to refuse to air Kimmel. Do you think this whole debate kind of shows that, for some at least, it's less about defending open expression and more about wanting the right to be offensive without facing any pushback?
Yeah, I'm not sure which comedian on the right you're talking about. There's a lot of them. They're all overrated. The funny ones are overrated, and there's a lot of them that are overrated and also not funny. I don't know which one you're talking about. I hope you're not suggesting that Greg Gutfeld is a comedian on the right.
No,
He doesn't.
never.
He does not count. I'm going to say this again. Every comedian knows this and says it, but yeah, let me say two things. Greg Gutfeld is usually not famous enough to talk about on stage at a stand-up show. Greg Gutfeld is the kind of example of where you censor yourself not because you're afraid of what he'll do in response or what the pushback might be, but because he's not famous enough to bring up in a stand-up show anywhere in America. I want to say that the right-wing comedians can sometimes be funny, and I think of it this way, where it's like, yeah, sure, you could say Stonewall Jackson or Erwin Rommel were talented military generals, but that doesn't make them good guys. So there's comedians like that too, where I'm like, okay, you're funny, you're a bad guy, but you're funny. Many of them are simply overrated in general, and are only popular because the billionaire attached and oriented algorithms that push them. If you, for example, click George Carlin videos or Bill Hicks videos or Richard Pryor videos on YouTube or Instagram and you like them, those social media companies will, or TikTok, those social media companies will then push at you all these right-wing comedians. Hey, if you like George Carlin, you'll like this fucking shitty Bitcoin guy. Hey, if you like Richard Pryor, you know who you really love is this right-wing comedian who doesn't believe that it's wrong to say faggot in a green room. Hey, if you love Bill Hicks, here's a real truth teller, some right-wing comedian that just says what billionaires say. There is no legitimate through line from George Carlin to the right wing comedians. There's no legitimate through line from Bill Hicks or Richard Pryor to the right wing comedians of today. That is not a valid connection. That is a mind control technique that is done through algorithms to try to make you go, oh, one thing, then the other thing. The right wing comedians have a more accurate through line origin story in talk radio. Their cultural forebears are not Carlin, Hicks, Pryor. They are Rush Limbaugh. Those fucking guys, like the right wing talk radio, shock jocks. That's where they come from. There's right wing guys who are comedians where their whole brand is free speech, free speech, free speech, free speech. I'm a free thinker. I'm a free fucking thinker. Oh, let me click through. Oh, you believe everything else that the other free thinkers believe. How free? Um, these guys, it's a posture that they have to win arguments. They never believed in free speech. A lot of them only spoke out about Jimmy Kimmel because everybody demanded it, because their hypocrisy was like bubbling out into public. And so Joe Rogan, I have nothing to lose. Joe Rogan, extremely overrated, not a funny guy. If you ever see his shows, you're like, Jesus fucking, sit in the back of the room at the Comedy Store or something, like, oh my fucking God. That's his fans who come to see him. Um, the previews he puts out for his specials are like, Jesus Christ, no one should watch that. Um, Joe Rogan was elk hunting for a week and couldn't say anything about Jimmy Kimmel. Ted Cruz, America's mayonnaise-necked assistant pastor, came out in favor of defending free speech in the case of Jimmy Kimmel before the unbrained Joe Rogan did. Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz, freedom of speech, before Joe Rogan said anything about it. And all the guys in the solar system that are around Joe Rogan, the Austin comedy scene, they had to come out and make a statement. Well, I like Trump, but I think he's gone too far this time. F you. You are am I supposed to believe that you're dumb or lying? So yeah, I think that the right wing comedian response was lame and slow, and it's really kind of annoying to see the media now go, even these right-wing comedians have spoken out in Jimmy Kimmel's defense. And I'm like, huh, you guys are completely unaware of any left-wing or normal centrist comedians. Your entire because you're so obsessed with covering what's been pushed by the algorithms. I'm saying this to all the media organizations, Variety Magazine, Hollywood Reporter, all of them. Maybe cover some comedians that aren't right-wing once in a while. 1/10 of the time, 10% of the time.
What do you make of the liberal reaction to this? Because maybe you saw it. There was a clip of Jake Tapper on Seth Meyers. Tapper said,
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah. You have students getting ripped off the street for writing op-eds about Gaza. Not to say that people haven't been mad about that, but people took immediate material action when a late night host was suddenly suspended. I mean, as a leftist, does it worry you that people may be more worried about late night hosts getting canceled than the serious free speech issues we already have in this country?
That's a very good question. First, I'll say I never describe myself as a leftist. I think of myself as a moderate anarchist. There's a lot of shit that I would never personally do, but if I'm on a jury about it, I'll absolutely vote not guilty. But there is a response that's lacking amongst some liberals or centrists, I might say. Yeah, very, very lacking and very sort of blindered, like, oh, something happened to the TV guy, where they're not aware of what happened, or they make excuses for what happened to students speaking out about a genocide and so forth. And it would be nice if people who spoke out about what happened to Jimmy Kimmel also spoke out about what happened to unfamous Americans or guests of this country who spoke out about Gaza. If the same people would come to the defense of the innocent civilians and children who've lost their lives to the Israeli aggression in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, if the same people would speak out again about the ethnic cleansing that's currently or recently happening in Sudan and Congo, Armenia, Artsakh, um, in Eritrea, in Ethiopia, in many other places recently, and it continues happening. And there's a distraction matrix where it's like, well, you should keep looking at your For You page and what the demographic algorithm has decided that you look at. I think ultimately a better move for humanity, A, that puts Palantir out of business, B, that puts all the other evil Silicon Valley companies out of business, and C, makes life better for more people. Anyway, I know there's not time. We're being censored by the clock, so thank you for hearing me out.
All right, James Adomian, thank you so much for coming on. What are you working on now, and where can people find your stuff?
My link tree is a good place. It's linked on all my social media. It's Jay Adomian, and also most social media I'm Jay Adomian or Blue Sky, jayadomian.bsky.social, and but I have a stand-up special, Path of Most Resistance, which came out a year ago on 800 Pound Gorilla. And that's available on YouTube on their YouTube page. The underculture's still out there. All the episodes are online, listenable, on the Forever Dog website. That's my old podcast. And then there's my stand-up album from 13 years ago, Low Hanging Fruit, is also available on 800 Pound Gorilla in audio format. Um, and I'm always doing shows around Los Angeles and occasionally other places too, and lots of cartoons.
Awesome, James. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.